Morning, my friends. How are you doing today? Happy Tuesday. I wanted to do a little meditation this morning on the subject of disappointment. I am feeling a little disappointed today, not because of election results in Canada. That's a separate reality that I won't talk about. But I received a rejection letter yesterday from a publisher that I had been hoping to work with. And their feedback was totally fair, and I have no issue with their decision-making process, and they were kind, and they wished me the best, and they thought that I would probably also be able to find another publisher that was the right fit. So, it was a wonderful interaction. It was kind, it was generous even. It was a warm and positive interaction where I feel like relationships can be maintained. But there's still disappointment. I had in my mind a certain path, and I thought maybe that would look like working with that publisher. And I mean, you get it. We get disappointment all the time, right? Like, I thought this was going to happen, and I had lined up in my mind a few years trajectory, or a few months, or even just a few days trajectory, and then it didn't happen. And so we're faced with loss, and we're faced with the decision to grieve, or the decision to not feel what feels uncomfortable. And so I spent, a good portion of yesterday holding this discomfort, this sadness. I thought this was going to work out, and it didn't. And logically, I know all the useful arguments. I know this doesn't mean anything negative for my career. I know that every writer faces tons of publisher rejections. I know that I've got another publisher right now who's also reviewing the manuscript, and they may be a great fit. So there's all that logical stuff that goes on, and oftentimes that's what our friends will try and encourage us with, right? My wife is a great practical encourager. She'll be like, "Okay, Jonathan, lift your gaze. Here are all the other things that we know to be true," and that's often a role that I play with my friends. Hey, I know you're discouraged and down. Let me give you some other viewpoints to help lift your gaze. And that's good, and we need that. But that doesn't replace the work that our heart has to do, and that we can choose to do. Hold the pain and the sadness and grieve and let it go. So, first thought is that any change, especially in the context of disappointment, is a loss. And the heart doesn't like losses. Losses hurt. And they're meant to hurt. Losses are meant to hurt. I saw this quote recently that said, "Grief is praise because it's the natural way the heart honors what it misses." And I thought that was just absolutely beautiful. It is okay to feel sad. It is okay to feel grief. It is okay to acknowledge that you feel disappointed, and that something that you thought was going to happen didn't. You are allowed to be honest about that with yourself, and you are allowed to express that to others. Now, I would caveat that with, if the subject of your disappointment maybe, say, is your marriage, be careful how you talk about that with your spouse. But I think it's really important to be honest about your disappointment. I've written before on the subject of marriage. The first step to turning your marriage around is admitting that you're disappointed. It took me years to turn around and be honest and say, I'm disappointed in my marriage and in what our love relationship looks like. It took me years to be that honest. But only after I was that honest were we able to look at our love relationship and actually both be like, oh yeah, we got some things we need to work on here. So if you don't get honest with your heart about your disappointment, you're going to carry it around whether you like it or not. So you can carry it intentionally for a few days or a few months, or you can carry it unintentionally forever. How about that for a sound bite? So, let's take a deep breath. I'm going to put a cushion behind me, it's a bit more comfortable. Take a deep breath, put your feet kind of squarely on the ground, get comfortable, hand on your heart. And take some deep breaths in your nose. It's important to breathe in your nose because it calms down your body. When you breathe in your mouth, you actually stimulate the parts of your body that keep you in fight or flight, so it's not helpful. And then you can speak over yourself the truth. You are allowed to feel sad. You are allowed to feel disappointed. Disappointment is a healthy, right response to something that you thought and hoped would happen, not happening. If you feel disappointed and sad, you are healthy, and your heart and emotions are doing exactly what they should be doing. This feeling of disappointment is not the end. You'll carry it with you forever if you don't acknowledge it now. You can carry it with it a short time, but it's not the end. That sadness and disappointment you feel is not a bottomless pit. If you feel and breathe your way through, you will find another side. You will come out the other side. And you will have capacity for joy greater than you had before because you felt the sadness. Now, if you can feel yourself already coming down and maybe feeling that sadness coming up, then hold it. Let it be there. Let it be present. Let it flow. And in your mind, go to a memory or a space where you feel safe and comfortable with God. For me, I've been practicing this a long time, and there's a space on the beach where Jesus always meets me. Picture yourself as a child in the presence of Jesus. And express to Jesus what you're feeling, and then what you're thankful for Him about. So for me, that's Jesus. I feel super sad. I feel really disappointed. I thought that this was going to go differently. And there's fear that I recognize as irrational, but there's fear that says nothing will change, no one will notice me, that I'm foolish for pursuing these things. And Jesus, already I'm thankful for you, that you see me, that you notice me, that you don't consider me foolish. Thank you for meeting me here and being with me. Those things that your heart expresses thanksgiving to Jesus for and appreciation are often a useful indicator of what you're feeling and what you're triggered in right now. So for me, clearly, it's fear that I'm a fool and that I will never be noticed by the people I want to notice me. So that's then something that you can carry with you into the day and that you can lift up to the Lord. Don't rush past it. And don't just well, I rebuke you, Jonathan. Here's all the truths and godly beliefs. There's time and space for that. But those are all left brain things, and your emotional core needs to breathe and have space. So you can carry that. Okay, so there's a part of my heart that still fears legitimacy. There's a part of my heart that fears I'm being unwise and foolish. I'm going to hold those things up to the Lord and allow, over the course of my day, God to speak into those things and to give me His perspective on those things. And as that comes into my spirit, I'm going to hold on to those things too, and I'm going to work to gradually integrate those into my beliefs and into my experience. And I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to return to that safe space, and I'm going to check in with Jesus, check in with my heart, and see where things are at. So there are some thoughts on dealing with disappointment. And that soundbite is, if you don't carry it now intentionally for a short time, you will carry it forever unintentionally and perhaps unawares. But it will be there, and it will be a drain on your energy, and it will suck the life out of you. And the more of those disappointments that we carry without acknowledging them, the less energy we will have for life. So grace and peace to you today, my friends. May you be honest with your disappointments and your sadness. And may you find the Lord faithfully meeting you in a space that is just for you two. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. Appreciate you.